Hey, today I want to talk a little bit about how do you navigate the worst that life has to offer. A parent passing away, not getting the job you wanted, having a relationship fall apart. And I went from someone whose name had been trashed to someone who now was arrested, indicted, and had to fight for his freedom.
I said, Carolyn, I don't know if I can do it. Literally, my body hurt. Tears would be going down my face, but I was running. I would pick up the weights and I would be crying, because in the face of really hard storms, you need to be able to have a circle.
Many of us, when we are sleep deprived, can get more fearful, emotionally variable, and we can end up making worse decisions. To not get over invested in the so-called expert, whether that expert's called a doctor, a lawyer, whomever, and to do your own research.
You feel like it's a permanent thing, but recognizing this is a chapter and not the book.
I think Pastor called it a Red Sea miracle. And with 1 hour left to go, the President of the United States reaches in and says, "This is wrong, this cannot pass." I want to try and turn tragedy into testimony. I want to try and see if there's some lessons that we can share with people.
Hi, I'm Beverly. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Carlos.
And we are the Watsons, stronger together.
Hey, today I want to talk a little bit about how do you navigate the worst that life has to offer. So one of the things that people have said to me a lot is, and a guy named Jason in particular, said, "Carlos, you have something that you should share." He said, very few people in life get to see so many highs and so many lows in one life. And there have to be some lessons in there for people about how to navigate difficulty, how to make it through when it may not seem like there's a way. So again, for people who don't know the story, I grew up in Miami, went to school, worked in business, worked in media, and in 2012 decided to start a media company called Ozzy that would have cool newsletters, cool TV shows, podcasts, festivals that were all about what was new and what was next. So I wanted to be the place where you found the new LeBron, the new Elon Musk, the new whomever. We were doing incredibly well, and by 2019, one of our competitors, BuzzFeed, wanted to buy us. They started offering us a lot of money, 125 million, then 170, then 225, 250, ultimately $300 million. So more than $250 million. Thoughtfully, thankfully, we said no. Many times we said no.
Because you believe that
because we believed it was worth more. And because, if I'm honest, we didn't really believe in the journey that he and they were on. We thought that what BuzzFeed was doing wasn't serious, it wasn't substantive, it wasn't soulful, and we thought that what we were doing at Ozzy mattered. We thought
It takes a lot of chutzpah to say.
It does. But that chutzpah came from a real place. This is something that Mom and I sat down on, and we built the furniture, Mom and Dad and me, on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It's something that Mom hired the interns. It's where, so we put a lot of effort into it. But we said no for the last time in 2020, and by 2021, they tried to smear us. Their number two guy, a guy named Ben Smith, came along and said, "Who are you to think that you won't take our money? I'm going to smear and say that you're a fraud. I'm going to say your company's not real. I'm going to say it's just shiny, but it's not a real thing." He said this despite the fact that we had 5 newsletters with millions of readers, 14 TV shows and won an Emmy, 10 podcasts, 4 festivals, over 200 clients, hundreds of millions of dollars.
I just think
revenue.
all of the energy and the love and the sweat and the missed vacations it took to create that, and that overnight they could write the smear campaign. And
all of these guys are connected. So when the New York Times starts running these lies, all of a sudden their friends next door in Brooklyn, prosecutors, decide to start investigating me and make up a case against me. Mm-hmm. If they want to make something up on you, they can make something up on you, right? And so that happened to me, and I went from someone whose name had been trashed to someone who now was arrested, indicted, and had to fight for his freedom. And as you both know, without your help, it took multiple years to fight through that, and ultimately to get President Trump and the pardon czar to give me and the company full clemency, to step in and say, "I don't care what this crooked judge and this corrupt court has said. You are innocent. You are a good person. This is a good company. They are lying, not you." And thank goodness that happened. Thank God that happened. I think Pastor called it a Red Sea miracle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that really ended up taking, as you both know, 5 years of our lives. And so now here we are, having navigated that. And so I'm proud of what we've learned from that. And I think, Bev, as you've said, it's not just us learning it, but it goes back generations.
Absolutely.
Right? They're runaway slaves.
Yes.
And there's grandma raising 7 kids
by herself.
And
her house burning down. And yet she did it.
Yeah.
And how did she do it?
Yeah.
With community.
Yeah.
With community.
Yeah.
And so as I think, frankly, even about, why we created Rose is because we want to not only heal, but we want to, God did not put us through this crazy, traumatic experience just to leave us there.
Right.
There is something better. There's inspiration. There are ways that we can lift up others. We can inspire others through our story. And if that's a part of what Rose, that we can see different rose petal blooms. Oh, we got it.
Yeah, we do.
We got it.
We do. But I want to try and turn tragedy into testimony. I want to try and see if some of what I went through, but not only that, because that's not the whole of my 56 years of living.
Right.
I want to try and see if there's some lessons that we can share with people. When you both think about that, if you were trying to go back and give advice to those people about how to make it through, what have both of you learned, either from that experience or maybe from other experiences, about how to navigate life's most difficult things? So a parent passing away, not getting the job you wanted, having a relationship fall apart, having a business on the edge.
I think for us, a really big thing was support, right? And that's one thing I definitely tell clients when you're going through something. Who's your support system? Who are the people that you can really rely on? Because in the face of really hard times and really hard storms, you need to be able to have a circle, right? And I think that's what our family provided for each other, was having that space, that place, those people, right?
And it's activating it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have the circle, but many people said, I'm not used to asking for help. And so even as one of our good friends, she's like, I learned how to ask for help from you guys.
Right.
Because I will say, I love being supportive to other people when other people are going through hard stuff.
But you don't like to be the one to ask for it.
No, it's
Doesn't feel
very
good.
uncomfortable,
Right.
right? Very uncomfortable. And so it requires going beyond your comfort zone because we didn't have a choice.
Right.
The other thing
And sorry, when you say that, just to make that concrete for people, you're saying you ask for support for people to show up at court. You ask people to sign petitions.
Yeah.
You ask people in some cases to contribute money.
we asked people to pray. We had a prayer Zoom call.
Yeah.
We had pray in front of the Second Circuit because it was so unfair that even how the judge totally abandoned all rules and did objections. So that was a crazy courtroom. So we asked people to pray in, to sign petitions, even to be our thought partners, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're like, what do we do? This is so crazy. And so asking our brain trust, right? Our trusted friends to say, here's what we're facing with. What do you think about this? Or what should we do next?
But one thing I would say though is that not all help is good help. And I think
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But say more.
I think that some people may want to help, but not go about it in the right way, and they can insert chaos in your decision making in your life.
True.
They are people who become super stuck to conventional wisdom or their point of view.
True.
They're only willing to support you
their
to
way.
the extent that you pursue their way. So I think that actually, first do no harm. First make sure that you are not getting overrun by pollution.
Right.
Well, in order to do that, to be fair, you almost have to take a step back and you have to think, I would say, think and pray and ask God to share what is the next thing I'm supposed to do. Because once you know the strategy, then you can find the support.
Yes, what's the strategy, but also, God, show me the people right?
Yeah.
Because I think God can also show you too. And I think also that's discernment as well, and understanding who are those core people. Everyone's not supposed to be in your core group, right? And so even your support system has different layers, right? And so you can have some core people who know everything, and then you have different layers that you share with, right?
Yeah.
And so I think
Smartly activated. I also want to say, don't let go of the reins, but sometimes you just get exhausted. I will say that there was times where I was just like, Lord, and I was exhausted and I was tired and I just had to rest. And so sometimes there are people that just bought food.
When you're going through something hard, you've got to get through it. And you may not get a second chance, because the way these systems work is not necessarily under your
So
control.
I hear that, but I'm also talking like physically. So for example, there was a time when we were advocating for you, Ren, that Carolyn and I were in DC, and we were I was literally so exhausted. And there was an event that night that we needed to meet someone who could be really important in advocating for you. And I said, Carolyn, I can't do it. And she looked at me and she said, come on, Bev. Even if we go for 10 minutes, you can do it. I said, Carolyn, I don't know if I can do it. Literally, my body hurts. We can do it.
She wants to cry. You see that, Carol? She was looking for an opportunity to cry. She was just looking for an opportunity to cry. When can I get in there with the cry? Yeah. She was just looking for an opportunity to cry. She wanted the music to start playing. Listen. One of the things that I agree on in that balance space is sleep. I think that many of us, when we are
you need sleep.
many of us, when we are sleep deprived, can get more fearful.
Yeah.
We can get more emotionally variable.
Absolutely.
And we can end up making worse decisions.
Absolutely.
And so I do think that, not just as an overall idea, but especially around some of those big things. And it's hard to know when you do and when you don't.
Right.
But I do think that there are moments in which, if you were able to sleep for a couple of hours and then come back to it before making a decision and making a move, that you would be different.
We're talking about like this outside experience that happened to us, but there's also, death. And I think about, a parent dying, infertility, a dying of a dream. Like, how do you get through that too? The thing that I think about is that this too shall pass. And so it helps me to remember what God has done in the past to bring me out of this, because sometimes you can feel like that's the moment.
You feel like it's a permanent thing, but recognizing this is a chapter and not the book.
Absolutely.
The entire thing, right? And so this is just a portion. This is just a piece, and this too shall pass. Yeah. So yes.
For me, one of the best versions of that was, I listened to a lot of autobiographies, written books, whether it was Nelson Mandela or Angela Davis or others, and hearing other people hit those difficult moments, and Frederick Douglass and others seeing themselves to the other side, definitely was something that never made any difficult moment feel like it was permanent.
Yes.
And it also gave you lots of examples of people moving through.
Yes.
And I also think people who love sports believe in that too. I think because sports is so filled with last minute comebacks and underdogs winning, I think if you really love sports, it also builds in you deeply this belief that it's never over.
Yeah.
And that I think that maybe not everyone has. And so when people say that sports teaches you a lot about camaraderie, teaches you a lot about leadership, yada, yada, I also think it teaches you a lot about remaining hopeful and not giving up and never saying I'm down 28 to 3
never say
in the
die.
third quarter.
Never say
Correct.
never.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I think about actually is our ancestors. And many times I already showed you or told you, like in the courtroom, many times I would feel mom's presence. I would feel grandmother's presence. And grandmother, who had 7 kids, her husband died when she was like
She was 40. She was 41.
41.
Her youngest child
Was
was
one.
one. Her eldest was a freshman in college.
And then later, their house burned down. And yet she was able to make sure that all those 7 kids got not just college degrees, but graduate degrees. So when I think, and I think about great-grandpa Dave, who was a runaway slave, who had his freedom pass, they wrote out his freedom pass, right? And so I think about if they can do it, oh man, okay, I can do this.
I did think about Grandpa Dave a
Did
lot.
you?
Because I felt that essentially I felt like I was 12 years a slave. I felt like I had been wrongly captured. Everyone's wrongly captured as a slave. But I felt like I certainly got caught off guard, and I felt like it was critical for me to find a way back home. When I think about navigating and making it through, I think about sleep. I think about exercise. I think that particularly if you're the person who's under the gun, I think that the more exercise you get, it's often an opportunity to vent and to let some of that stress off you and go in that way. And so for me, the stationary bike, which was available, or even just walks in the morning, I think were really important. And when I think about people going through everything from a divorce. I talked to a friend the other day who said that when she was going through a divorce, she ran twice a day.
Wow.
Because she didn't
Carol,
want...
you did a lot.
Oh, I did a lot. When I first got divorced, oh my gosh, or when we first even separated, I was like in the gym for 2.5, 3 hours. And that was so extremely helpful and so extremely relieving, because I would just be running. Tears would be going down my face, but I was running. I would pick up the weights and I would be crying. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like,
But don't you say that emotion moves with motion?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so you can actually work through it, like psychologically.
Well, psychologically, because actually anxiety first resides in our body, right? And so by moving it out, actually, we can actually physiologically help to get it out, right? And so that was something that was super important for me to work on, and to actually make sure that I didn't allow it to sit. Because what is it we say, that the body keeps the score, right? If you don't talk about it, another thing that's really important is talking about it, naming it, claiming it, and saying what's going on, right? Because again, that whole shame thing, there's so much ugliness in that shame, but there's like death and torture in shame and quietness and whatnot. But if you talk about what's going on, name what's happening, talk it through, work it through movement. Our body needs movement. We can get it out, right? And so the body doesn't need to keep the score.
And maybe I would say the other thing for me is, how do I hold on to joy?
But on that, I think different people respond differently. I think there are people who need conventional joy more than other people. And I think there's some people who actually work better, not focused on there being joy, but focused on working even hard and being more intense and getting to the other side of it. And there was a famous basketball player who, when you look at the NBA, he's the person they made the logo off of. His name's Jerry West. Grew up in where his dad was a very abusive alcoholic. And, he would say that he applied all that frustration and upset to his basketball practice. Because I honestly don't think that if everyone has joy, I think that you can do well to have someone who frankly is a little bit paranoid, who's on edge, and who's constantly looking at your blind side. And I wouldn't want them trying to insert joy in it, because that's not actually going to have them being their best self. And so it may be that you need a superhero team. Carol, what about you? Because when you think about making your way through a difficult PhD program, finding a husband later in life, and then exiting that marriage and going through that, navigating fertility questions, starting companies, helping save your brother, helping your sister adopt and raise a child, all of those are rare things. All of those are 90% of people aren't going to get a PhD. 90% of people aren't going to meet a husband in their 40s. 90% of people aren't going to emerge from a difficult divorce, still intact, right? Just on and on. And so you are fortunate in that you have had not one, but you've had multiple experiences getting to the other side of something that to other people would seem insurmountable. What, if anything, helped you do it that surprised you that it helped, or you think might surprise someone watching?
I think in addition to prayer, as Bev said, and walking with God is the community that you have with you, because in all of those, I didn't do it by myself. But I think about like the PhD process. The first time I applied, I didn't get in, right? And that was really devastating for me because I really wanted to, and I later found out that because it never got into the office, right? And I remember
They never received it.
Right? Because
you submitted it.
I submitted it, but it got stuck in some office. Because I remember going to talk to the person. I was just like, thank you so much. Can you just tell me why I didn't get in? Like what, She was just like, Carolyn, respectfully, I've never seen this before. And I was just like,
but to me, that's a lesson, which is the number of times you need to triple check to make sure the most basic stuff is even allowing you in it, right? In the midst of all that stress, sometimes we drop the ball,
right?
And sometimes we aren't super paranoid about that. And so I do think that that's part of navigating it, and that's part of getting through.
But it was the people around me. So I didn't get it the first time, right? And so I remember my therapist at the time, she was like, Carolyn, you should apply. You can redo this or add to it and everything. And I remember reaching out to my girls, and I was like, guys, I'm about to do it again. I'm about to apply to this PhD program, and can anyone help me, actually? And a friend, Viv, she was a lawyer, and I sent her my essays. She gave me such great feedback. She was like, Carolyn, this is great, but here's all the stuff you can do. And with that, and with just like having different people, because the first time around, that essay went through round and round and round. Like it worked. And to see the community of people who came together to help me, only because I asked, being vulnerable enough to say, can you help? I didn't quite do it this time or the first time, but can you help me here?
I think winning situations almost always have a last second Sherpa. Because I think about the woman who helped you with your dissertation, get it finalized. And that's someone who wasn't planning on helping you 24 hours before, 48 hours before.
So real talk, what I was about to say is the reason why we say Watson Stronger Together is because through this storm, we recognize that the three of us and our older sister, we bring something individual and different. And the way we go about problem solving is different, but complementary. And so we needed all of us. We needed Carolyn's truth telling. We needed my both prayer and diplomacy, and we needed your strategy. We needed all of us, and to show up. And sometimes, real talk, we clashed.
So you admit you were wrong?
Oh, his mouth is like forward. I was like, okay.
And sometimes you clashed. And there was times when we didn't totally hear Carolyn's truth telling, and we did ours.
Or to say it all fairly, Carolyn didn't do a good enough job of speaking up strongly. Why am I saying that?
Why are you saying that?
I'm saying that because there are other people at home right now who are right about stuff.
Yes.
And they should not let go of the rope because
hold
on a second.
Okay.
It may be about their mother's health. And so who cares that your other two siblings aren't hearing you? It is so important that you need to find a different way to get them through. It may be about a second grader who is struggling in school and about to spin out. And you can't be the aunt who just sits quietly by while you see something replayed and say, well, I tried my best, but there was just so much drama and they just couldn't hear it. And I knew I had to know my place. Yes, sometimes, but other times you're like, no, if we don't get this right now,
there's some real
this person's gonna, and so Bev, I both don't want to let us off the hook, but I also want to say to the person who has what we all need,
right?
Whether it's to save someone's health or to put someone on a proper growth journey or to help a business not go headlong into something.
Right. So we're all passionate in what we're passionate about, right? So like if it really sticks to me, then I'm really up there, right? Same with you, older sister, right? I think sometimes though, you guys and Rinda, you might be really passionate about something. And so you're saying you gotta do this, and I'm saying it too. I'm passionate, but I'm not meeting you at that same level of passion.
Humility is both a strength, because it probably allows you to listen to more people, right? And allows you to be open to more people. But it also, you probably have to manage that, because it could also cause you to not force a reckoning with the truth. But we had an inkling of that before. So one of the other things I think that is critical when you are navigating difficult things is, and I think AI makes it easier now, frankly, is to not get over invested in the so-called expert in the case, whether that expert's called a doctor, a lawyer, whomever, and to do your own research and to always get second opinions on critical things. And if you ultimately come to a conclusion, man, you are never going to see me again with my life on the line in a situation in which the odds of you winning are under 10%. You are never going to see me meaningfully defer to the so-called experts. Just not a chance, right? Not a chance, right? And that doesn't mean you don't listen. That doesn't mean you don't learn. That doesn't mean you don't bring humility to it. But if you keep coming back after really considered analysis of this, you got to honor that, because you're the person who's gonna live with the results of that doctor, of that lawyer, of that teacher, of that caretaker, right? You're gonna live with that. Any final thoughts when you think about navigating difficult situations?
You know, I think even the idea of thinking about the storm before the storm happens is helpful.
That is so hard, Bev, because I saw Kanye West's mom talk about it once, where she's like, because Kanye was talking to her about his worries, and she was saying, I met her with Mickey, your college friend, and she was saying, you know, so often when you're from a marginalized group, you are spending all your time trying to make it, and you don't see yourself as having made it. And so they see you as a threat long before.
You see yourself that way.
Long before you see yourself as just literally trying to make ends meet. And so doing, Bev, as you said, that kind of dry run, that kind of disaster preparedness is what they call it, right? When we were growing up in Miami, when you'd get ready for hurricanes, right? What do you say about the fact that, because here's one of the other things I think is unfortunate about us as Black people. You were talking about shame before, Carolyn. People don't really believe our pain. Like when I say that something is unfair or I was mistreated, they don't believe me. They don't believe me.
Or they discount you.
Or they discount it. Like, well, they don't really believe me, Bev. They don't believe me. They don't believe that the judge blocked my witnesses. They don't believe that they switched a Black woman out and all of a sudden some white guy who was
they don't believe that he had
mates
millions
with the prosecutors. They don't believe that he lied in open court and said he had no conflicts, and they don't believe that. You know, it's interesting. Recently, when I talked to the famed lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, longtime Harvard Law professor, you know, lawyer to many famous people, he said that when you visit a prison these days, which was different than when he first started out in the practice half a century ago, and this broke my heart. He said it's like visiting a Black community. He said the racial makeup is so shifted from majority white now to, in most cases, majority Black, and certainly majority Black and brown, even in random places like Iowa and New Hampshire.
To that. It's like a Black community.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a plantation.
And no one cares.
Right?
I mean, the new Jim Crow. Right?
Yeah. So, again, the reality is that there are hundreds of thousands of primarily Black and brown men and women who this happens to every day, and it happens in broad daylight. So this guy felt comfortable because he does this every day. In his mind, he was not doing anything new. He's not doing something he has never done before.
He wasn't hiding it. He does it, and they all do it, right? Yep. And so even when it was interesting, because when we first brought out the stats with the 3 prosecutors, it was like, that's a big thing.
Showing that these 3 white prosecutors in diverse Brooklyn, but which is becoming increasingly white, even though it's increasingly white, there are more white people in Brooklyn than anyone else now, 90% of the people they prosecute are black.
Right.
And
This is
so
what they said in the response.
So again,
In written response too.
Yeah.
Again, not trying to hide it.
Yeah.
This is written down.
but you know what's interesting about this conversation is that, you know, we were trying to have this in a confined way because Ernie wanted to get it in a confined way. And
it's hard.
And it's interesting that your worry, Bev, in me offering it in a confined way is that it sounds too safe.
Well, it sounds like it didn't really happen. And what I want to say is that this is traumatic. And even when we speak about it now, I remember and I get mad and and I'm like, thank you, God, because you brought us through and you almost didn't get through. It literally was 2 hours before you were supposed to.
So I don't get mad like that at that. You know who I get mad at? I get mad at people who are supposed to be our friends and we're supposed to help. That's who I get mad at.
Wait. What?
When I think about I don't get mad. Maybe let me say it differently. Of course, judge is wrong, prosecutor's wrong. These are clearly bad people who do this all the time.
Yeah.
They don't do this sometimes. I was surprised about the reporters. I was surprised that so many white reporters just show up there, see a lynching happen, and just don't. So I was surprised at that. It was naive, but I was surprised at that.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at how at the jury, right? And how that whole jury process worked at. I was candidly surprised even at some of my lawyers along the way. I had lots of different lawyers over the years, but not all lawyers, just like you can't trust all your doctors or all your teachers or all your priests, you better not trust all your lawyers. Like you were not going to get home that way. So be super thoughtful about that. But you've heard me say before, and you'll hear me say now, the moments that I spend time on are people, whether they were family or friends or mentors even, who turned the other cheek. Some of them didn't just turn the other cheek. Some of them affirmatively helped put our family at risk, put me at risk. Some of them, it was clear to me, it seemed insane, but kind of celebrated it. So when I think about that, and when I think about lessons that if I really am trying to give people advice, I'm like, just be super careful who you call your friends. Just be super careful.
And the challenge is you never know.
Or you do know.
Do you?
Or yeah, you do. Some you do. Some you do. And now, if I were to teach this class to young black and brown boys, I could say
How
that.
would you know? How would you know?
What would I?
Because again, I mean, we've said before,
Yeah.
a lot of the people, Carlos, because you have had a vision from a young childhood of aspiring and of achieving, and it was always apparent that you were going to go far and high, right? That was, we saw that, we knew that. But you also used to have like a list of, if anything ever happened to me, these are the people that you should contact. These are the people you should go to. These are the people you should call.
They will help you.
They will help you.
If
they will
mom
have
is
my
sick,
back. If mom is sick, if dad, if da-da-da, they will have my back. Have them. And we put all of them in our phones because that was sort of that protocol of what to do. And yeah, none of them.
Yeah, I think, Maya Angelou said, she used to quote a French philosopher, and she used to say, if you get in trouble, don't turn to the middle class, don't turn to the bourgeoisie, because they think they have something to lose, and they won't stand up for truth. Shai was talking about standing up for truth. They won't stand up for truth. They won't stand up for what's right because they think they have something to lose. And so Maya Angelou said, go for the person who they call the thug, right? She said, because that's someone who's not as committed to the conventional norm and the status quo, who knows that they will do wrong and knows that just because someone has a fancy title doesn't mean they are to be trusted.
Right. The South African freedom fighter told me that, he said, be careful. The black bourgeoisie will more often than not betray you.
And so if I were to talk to my younger self, I would say those people from the fancy schools and that they are going to be helpful if you have a family member who's sick, or if you have a child who's trying to get into some fancy school. If it's something that they consider relatively easy, low risk, right? But if you have anything that smacks of scandal or real lethal risk, what I would say to myself is there probably are not more, even for the warmest, nicest, most gregarious person, there are not more than 2 or 3 friends who will be your friends. They're not. And if you're fortunate, you will have family on top of that, right? So some people do, some people don't. If you're fortunate, you will have family. Fortunate I had you guys. But I would say that there are only 2 or 3 friends who really can and will. And actually, you're actually giving me one of the modules I would do in the class. I would force everyone to really have that conversation. I'd force you to write it down and to really ask. And then I would ask each person, go have a conversation with them and say, if I got arrested tomorrow and they said the following bad things about me, would you show?
And I guess you never. I think that's good to ask.
You know,
I think you never know.
No,
And
no.
to support us.
Again, I'm separating it. I'm saying most of us, when you look for support, you understandably start with your friends and family.
Right.
And I'm saying if you start with your friends and family, that list probably will only end up being 1 to 3 people. And if you start with family, even that will only be partial. Now, you're saying that there's a blessing that some people have, not everyone, in that there are people who don't count as close friends or family who, as Shai said, believe in truth.
Yes.
And who, for whatever combination of reasons, either because they're faith, because they have
That's
a
what I was
connection,
about to say.
they have a
There's
connection to a
faith
family
piece.
member or to a friend, they will do the right thing above and beyond their relationship with you. It is not tied. Just like there are people who will not help you despite your relationship. So your relationship doesn't really matter in terms of their decision. Their decision is, if you were in that much trouble, I don't want any part of it.
And, I also want to say, we are also on the other side with a group of some people who we didn't even imagine, who came up and didn't have to come up, but they did. And so sometimes there's that silver lining. So it's not this, but it's this. And the right people were there at the right time because
I want to be
grace.
careful with that, Bev.
Well,
You know why?
why?
You don't want to be careful with that?
Why?
Because 72,000 people, most of whom look like us, get prosecuted every year. 71,710, meaning 99.6%, end up getting convicted. And I don't want to give them false hope. We got a Red Sea miracle.
We did get a Red
This
Sea
is
miracle.
not the norm.
That's
And
true.
so
That's true.
it
That's
didn't
true.
work out okay.
Right.
It didn't.
We got intervention.
Right.
And
Through the grace of
I don't
God,
want
yes.
people thinking that the system is okay. Like, anyone who knows me, they are never going to meet another person who walks my journey probably again. They're not going to meet another person in their life who, with 2 hours left to go, facing a crooked judge and corrupt prosecutors and about to get turned into one of the most dangerous prisons in the world, a prison referred to as the gladiator school.
Yeah. Right.
They are not going to meet another innocent person who is about to wrongly be sent to jail based on lies and envy and smears and corrupt, crooked people who gets rescued 1 to 2 hours before time. You're not going to meet that person again. And with 1 hour left to go, the president of the United States and the White House party czar reaches in and says, "This is wrong. This cannot pass." They're not. So again, I want to be careful about people looking at this, because I think, again, part of the reason why people aren't more animated about how corrupt our system is because we have movies that make you think that Denzel Washington or Julia Roberts or someone's going to come in.
Well, that's what
and
one
is
of the
gonna do
jurors
something.
said. Well, if he's innocent, then he could get him through the appeal and the appeal process.
And little do they know that you have, in some cases,
Less
a year
chance.
ago, you have even less chance. So if you only have less than 0.5% chance of winning a trial, you have less than that, if you can imagine, of winning an appeal, right? Like less than 1% win an appeal.
Right.
And so the movies and TV make you think that it's it's a jury system, a jury of your peers, and people are fair and they're thoughtful. And it's not that way at all.
It's not.
Right? It's not that way at all.
It's broken.
Okay. Any last thoughts for people? Because I really am trying to ask myself, what would I say? Like if I was having real talk and it was just
Actually,
us.
Ren,
Yeah.
I would want to know what else do you want to hear in this
Yeah.
kind of course that can help you think about how you can prepare to survive the storm. Any storm of life, whether it be starting your own business, taking care of a sick relative or friend, in terms of a legal battle. What do you wish this course would include? And let's include it.
Or
also,
teach us.
Yeah, let's say teach us, because
Yeah.
what have you learned, right? So what are some things that you've done, that some of the storms you've gone through? What tools have you used? How have you done them? And with who?
I keep it down, she goes, no, they don't down.